Hello and welcome back to Zero Cool Gaming, and today we're going to be doing a review of a game called The Darkness. Now, they did actually... Hold on a second.
That was the first time I died.
Estacado! Oh, Estacado, come on, wake up, sunshine! What's the matter, you pussy, huh? Get one little baby tap from a nightclub bouncer, you go to sleep on me over here?
Yeah, I already told you, he don't look so good. That guy was a goddamn gorilla. Ugly too.
He's gonna rip our nuts off. He finds out we never collected his money. Oh, man. Man, we screwed the pooch on this one, Jackie. You know what Paulie's like. You don't collect, that's not to even come home.
Hey, Polly don't know nothing, alright? Well, tell him the money was stolen before we got there. Maybe he'll be nice, cause it's Jackie's brother.
The guy's a... You wouldn't know nice if it slapped him upside the head with a 50-pound sledgehammer. Jesus Christ. We gotta get a plan.
Okay. Practical question. You think Polly was gonna want us to take up a woman at such a site? I'm headed down.
Yeah. I mean, Paulie was adamant.
Now, they did actually make 2 of these games, which is kind of cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed both of them. The first game was a little more basic than the second, but they're both essentially the same kind of gameplay. And they had a little more to the second one, which kind of mixed it up a bit, but for the most part they're both the same game. So what type of game is this? At its core, it's a first-person shooter. The secondary elements to that is that you can bring out demons, I guess, monsters. And these monsters can kill people and cast spells, powerful spells that do different things. That's the secondary aspect of the game. And then you got the story itself, which is interesting. If nothing else, it is an interesting story. It's not really the type of game that I would normally play. I don't really like playing the bad guy. But the way that they put this story together is odd, to say the least. To where, yeah, you are a bad guy. You've done horrible things. You will continue to do horrible things. And the fact that the game doesn't shy away from that, I guess, is what makes it tolerable. For me, anyway. There are several things within it that, I don't really like as far as some of the aspects to the gameplay itself. The people that you're dealing with, the kind of people that you're dealing with, makes it actually easier to justify what you're doing. Writing things in your own mind. I've never been the type who just likes to go out and play the games where you're an evil player that just does evil things for evil reasons because, you enjoy it, or you want power, or, that sort of thing.
It's me, Jackie.
I don't even like games where you start out as a bad person and then slowly change into somebody better as you go through it.
Things got kind of screwed up at work.
Usually the way that these games are presented is not something that I'm willing to deal with, I guess is the best way of putting
I'll be
it.
there soon.
So,
I promise.
as a direct result of that, I just don't play them.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Assassin's
Don't worry
Creed,
about it. Look, just remind me again how to get to your new place.
Hitman, there's a few others, don't get me wrong, but I just couldn't enjoy these games. Thief. I realize that the persona of who you're playing does change as you go through the game. but the beginning of the game is what turns me off. So it is what it is. I've certainly played games where you started out as a decent character and it was very easy to go down the wrong path as you played the game because of the different things that were thrown in your way and how the game plays out, this sort of thing. Some of those I can deal with. It's easier to grasp that, I guess, for me. But let's go ahead and get into the story of this game. It starts out where your uncle, which he's not really your uncle, you were adopted from a orphanage, and this guy who adopted you trained you to be a contract killer for the mob. And as you got older, apparently you got really good at this job. And he sends you out one day to go pick up some money from, it doesn't really say where, but some type of illicit business. And when you get there, you find that the people who are supposed to be there aren't there, and the money isn't there either. So your boss slash uncle gave you two tasks. The second task was to assassinate a foreman. Doesn't give you any reasons why, he just tells you that you need to do that. So you decide to leave the first job, thinking that you might be able to come back to it later and get the money, and head on to the second job. And in the process of doing that, you end up catching the attention of a bunch of corrupt cops, as well as the attention of the laborers on the job site, and all of them start shooting at you, this sort of thing. Eventually you end up wrecking the car. You get a couple of guns from your buddy who bought them for your birthday present. And during all of that, you learn that your uncle put a hit out on you. And you learn that because he actually made a tape of himself telling you that, and the foreman that you were supposed to kill is already dead, and he's been wired with explosives waiting for you to show up so that the bomb can kill you. So yeah, I mean, it's just one bad thing after another on your birthday. So you finally leave that area and you head off to go meet your girlfriend and, you know, tell her to stay safe, that sort of thing. You try to tell her what your job is and what you're doing and what happened to you, and she just denies reality and tells you to stop being, you know, crazy, stop lying to her, blah blah blah, that sort of thing. So eventually you leave her apartment and you start heading to the next place that you're supposed to go. And on your way there, you run into a cleaner, and he asks you to help him with some of the bodies that he's cleaning out of this facility. And after you do so, he tells you that the only way that you're going to get out of this hit that's been put on you by your uncle is to dismantle his business to the point that the rest of the family will see that he had no business running what he was doing in the first place. And he tells you to start that by going to a chemist who makes a bunch of illegal drugs for the family and sells them to, well, sells them to dealers who sell them to other people. And he tells you where this guy can be found, and he tells you how to get in there. And of course, on the way there, you run into more corrupt cops who've been sent out to stop you by any means necessary. And even though they try to tell you, oh, you know, just turn yourself in, you'll be fine, blah, 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 they have no intentions of bringing you in. They have every intentions of just putting a bullet in your head. And that's made very apparent to you. So, as you can see, this game has it's a pretty harsh story, to say the least. Pretty hardcore. It's about a mob family who has internal problems and how they'll use any means available to them to, I guess, take care of their own problems internally, if you want to call them that.
Yeah.
But the reality is
I don't know what to do or
that
feel about it.
you're about to start, I guess you could say, a war on the streets
Power system, Mary?
to save yourself from
Jesus, what
the
about the kids?
issues that your uncle caused deliberately, so that he would be seen as being justified taking you out.
But, you mind if I have a quick word with Jackie?
But
Okay.
the truth is, it was a setup from the beginning. And I guess that those sorts of things are probably pretty common when it comes to this type of business. When your business is killing people, you should always expect that those who pay you to kill others will eventually pay someone to kill you, or a bunch of people. Alright, so you take out his drug maker, and that really pisses Polly off. And he decides to set up some bombs inside the church where the orphanage that he got you from is. And he killed the lady that run the place, a few of the kids, a bunch of the others got burned.
Uncle Paulie brought me down
Secondary
here on vacation
explosions
one
go
time.
off, all sorts of
Got the
crazy
train.
stuff. So eventually you make your way to the
Best 2 days
church
me and him ever spent
because your
together.
girlfriend's there and she wants to try to help out in any way she can. And when you get there, of course, there's another mob member there, and he tells you that you need to take Polly out. He's done too much damage to the family name and other things around town. So he tells you to go to the place where they store all their illegally gathered money and destroy the money, which will hurt him even more. And you tell him that the only way that you're going to do that is if they promise to protect your girlfriend from the wrath of Polly. And they promise to do that. And you make your way there and you destroy the money warehouse. And when you make your way back to where Jenny's supposed to be, you find that they weren't able to keep their promise, and Polly ends up kidnapping Jenny. And he took her right back to the orphanage where he got you from. So you make your way back to the orphanage. And as you approach where Polly and Jenny are, the darkness within you binds you and prevents you from being able to save her life. Eventually, Polly puts a bullet through her head, and then him and the police chief run off. And you pick up their gun and put it to your own head and pull the trigger. You wake up later in hell, and you make your way through hell. Eventually you find your great-great-grandfather, and he tells you that he's the reason that the darkness is within you. Apparently he did something during the war that caused the darkness to enter him. And he tells you that there's a couple of powerful weapons that, if you find them, will help you to control the darkness within you. So you work your way through hell some more, and eventually you find those weapons. And the people who created them tell you what their uses are, and that you need to be careful with them, because the darkness within you is trying to consume your soul.
There's
So,
no explanation for what's happening.
to say that this is a pretty twisted
Maybe this
game would
place
be
isn't
putting
a
it
place at all.
mildly.
Maybe
It's a
a
very
state of
twisted
mind.
game. There's
I'm
all
supposed to
sorts
be
of crazy things going on all the
I
time.
remember you. I remember the
And
gunshot.
the more you learn, the more questions
Think
you
I'm in
have,
hell.
obviously. But it does make for an interesting storyline at the very least. I mean, you weren't a good person to begin with. You were trained by the mob to be a contract killer. Then you try to do what they tell you to, but they set you up for failure so that they'd be justified in killing you. He turned out to be hard to kill, a lot to do with the fact that there's this darkness inside of you. And as you try to get revenge against the man who just wanted you dead because he didn't like the way that you did things. He didn't like the way that you talked back to him, things of that effect. He has gone out of his way to make your life a living hell in the process. Started out with just killing the few mobsters that were closest to you. And of course, trying to kill you yourself. And then going after the orphanage, which he knew would draw Jenny out, and he goes after Jenny. And right now, while you're in hell, the darkness is busy putting your body back together, because apparently if you die too soon, something happens to the darkness, even though the game hasn't explained that yet. But it needs you to stay alive for a time and to do something before you actually die. It doesn't explain to you what that thing is, or when that thing is going to happen, or how much time needs to pass before it happens. But it's obvious that all of these things are things that it needs before you actually pass on and end up in hell like the rest of your family has.
I just came back is all.
Alright, so when Jackie wakes up from hell, he finds himself at the subway station, and he has the weapons that he collected while he was in hell. And then he decides that he's going to use the time that he's been given to go after the two guys that kidnapped and killed his girlfriend. First place he goes is to his aunt's house to get her permission to do so, and she tells him to go after the blackmail information that the police have been keeping on the crime families around town to keep them in line. And she tells him where that information can be found. So Jackie heads on out over there, and he finds the blackmail information. And then he goes after the officer, but he fails to actually kill him. And eventually the officer gets in touch with him, the police chief, and tells him to meet him at a church and to bring the information with him. And Jackie does that, and while he's at the church, they eventually capture Jackie, and they get their blackmail information back, and Jackie uses his darkness within him to open the briefcase, which is filled with explosives, and that kills him again. And of course he finds himself back in hell and continuing his work there to find a way to control the darkness, or at the very least keep it from controlling him, because that seems to be what's happening as it gets stronger and stronger. And by this point in the game, you've killed enough people and eaten their hearts that you've acquired the abilities to summon a few little small goblin-like creatures, gunners, search and destroy creatures, stuff like this. And they're pretty useful. You can't really kill them, and if something does kill them, then it just takes a little while before you can summon them again. It's an interesting aspect of the game, to say the least. It's not like the second game, where your summoned creature becomes kind of like your friend, and he's willing to do things against the darkness that allowed it to exist in order to help you. This game doesn't really have anything like that. This is more of just Jackie learning to control what's within him and make the darkness work for him rather than for itself. Which, you know, it's not a bad thing. But in doing all of this, of course, you're upsetting the darkness quite a bit. It tries to lie to you all the time. It's already shown that it'll prevent you from helping people if it gets the opportunity to. Because it wants you to, I guess, only kill, not help. That sort of thing. And I guess that's pretty much what it would do if it was in complete control. Wouldn't care who it killed, how it killed them, or why. It would just kill for the pleasure of doing so. And Jackie wants to, I guess, maintain some part of his humanity and go after people who've done things to deserve to be killed rather than just doing it for the pleasure of doing so. But yeah, the darkness within you is really trying to twist who and what you are into something that is more usable for itself than what's usable for the situations that you find yourself in. While although it does help you, it's also constantly working against you. And that's a problem that Jackie really wants to solve. At least for himself and maybe others that might be able to benefit from such things. Alright, so eventually you make your way back into hell because you're dead again. And you meet back up with your family and they direct you to new areas. And eventually you make your way into a church where it culminates into, I guess, what could be considered a boss battle. You against the darkness, and you use different machines to draw the darkness out of you. And then once it's all drawn out of you, you recombine with it. It's an odd boss battle, to say the least. And then you end up back in the real world. Again at the subway, but this time not in a subway train. And when you get there, of course, there's people there who are surprised to see you alive. And they've asked where you've been for the past couple of weeks, and of course you don't really tell them. And they tell you to make your way back to your aunt's house, so you do. And there's more people at your aunt's house, and they tell you that they've had enough of your Uncle Polly and what he's been doing. So they tell you to hurt him where he can be hurt, which is a smuggling ship that's used to bring product into the city that you're in. And they tell you where the radio can be found to do so, and you fight your way all the way to the radio, and eventually you call the ship into the harbor. And then you fight your way down to where the ship is, and you fight your way through the ship, eventually killing the captain and trying to sink the ship itself. After you've completed that task, they tell you where Polly's hiding out in a lighthouse, so you make your way back to the pier, you get on board a small boat, and it takes you to the lighthouse, and then you have to work your way all the way through the lighthouse, and eventually you kill your Uncle Polly. Upon doing so, you find yourself again in the dream world, but this time your ex, or your dead girlfriend is there, I should say. And you guys have a nice dream together, and that's how the story ends. That's how this game ends. So when I said it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for part 2 and how it starts and all that, it really doesn't. Not when you listen to how part 1 ends. But regardless, it is what it is. So, essentially the whole way through, the darkness was saying that if you kill off Polly, which is the source of your rage and anger and hatred, that the darkness will be able to take you over completely. And it would seem that that's true when you end up in the dream world with your dead girlfriend. That it had taken over your mind and your body, and that's where you were locked in, I guess is a way of putting it. But, you know, the second game kind of throws all that into BS land and gives you a whole new reason for going forward. It's basically the same story in a lot of ways. It's just you don't see your girlfriend in the second story because she's already dead. You do see her, and you have hallucinations of her all the time, and the time you guys spent together, but it's different. And truly the second game, I think, is a little better than the first as far as the actual gameplay. The story, not so much. It's a little different, but I wouldn't say that it's really any better. I did find the idea of one of your demonic helpers who's willing to be loyal to you over the darkness that created it to be an interesting aspect of the game. But regardless, it is what it is.
Make them fear you.
Anyway, that's my rant for the day. I hope that you enjoy the rest of yours. If you could hit the like, subscribe, rumble, follow buttons, all that does help, and I will talk to you later.